We're 19 days into 2021 and I cannot get sea shanties out of my head. Hey guys, what's up? My name is Dom. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I typically make bookish content, movie content, anything else in between because I like to do whatever I want on this channel. And today, we are talking about every single TV show I watched in the year of our Lord 2020. Do I usually watch a lot of TV? Not really. I'll watch like an episode here and there of shows while I eat dinner. That's about it. Sometimes I binge watch, but I'm not like a huge binge watcher. Until 2020 came along, so I was able to watch 22 TV shows. Because I watched so many TV shows, I thought it would be fun to tier rank them and to talk about them. It's not going to be like the movie tier ranking where I kind of had to rush through it because it was so many. So I get to talk, I can kind of talk in detail for some of these. And you know what? We are just going to jump right into it. But first of all, look at my shirt. I don't know how to like show this. I don't have a viewfinder. I don't know what I'm showing you guys. But you guys like my shirt? I bought it on Box Lunch. It's from that one scene in Avatar.
Brave soldier boy.
Okay, so here are my tiers. For number 1, we have ATLA, or Avatar: The Last Airbender. Then we have the next one, which is like the great tier. It's called Deserves Every Emmy. Then the next one, which is like the good tier, Watch While Scrolling Through My Phone. Then we have Couldn't Vibe With It, so maybe like 2 out of 5 stars. Like I got myself through it, but just have no desire to watch it again. And then the end, we have Cancel It, which means don't renew it, cancel the show, I hated it so much. And again, we have 22 to talk about, so let's get started. I apologize that the movie posters are not cropped correctly. That was out of my control, and I don't know how to fix it. So number 1, we have Atypical, which is about a boy with autism, and he's trying to find a girlfriend. I watched season 1 when it first came out, so season 2 and 3 I watched in January of 2020. Maybe season 3 I watched later in the year. I don't know when season 3 came out, but so in the beginning, and like the very first week of January, I was still at Target, and then I wasn't leaving for my Disney World internship until later in the month. So I just had a month of nothing to do, so I binged. The show was okay. Like, I watched all 3 seasons, so I'm going to put it in the Watch While Scrolling Through Phone tier. I watched all 3 seasons, and I did fairly enjoy it. But I'm hearing criticism from the autism community. The show did consult with Autism Speaks, which is not a very good organization. I didn't know that until I finished the show, so my bad, and I apologize for that. I did think the show was cute, though, for what it is. It's just, I think they did end up canceling it. It's not going to be renewed for a 4th season. And, I mean, like I said, I liked the show, but I wasn't upset when I heard that news. Like, I'm gonna live. I don't care that it was canceled. So it was okay. And it wasn't a hard show to follow. I did very much spend a lot of time on my phone when watching the show. And then we have The Proud Family, which is what I watched while on my Disney internship. Because that internship, I had no time to do anything but my fucking job. So Proud Family, I would watch on my days off with like some roommates here and there, but I would have it playing while cooking or while doing some like other work on my laptop, stuff like that. It was background noise. It was also a rewatch since I have not seen the show in years, but I used to love it. And that theme song still slaps. Absolute chef's kiss. Always stuck in my head. So I will put it in the 3rd tier, and I'm going to put it before Atypical because if it would let me, because I do like it a lot more than Atypical. Love, Death, and Robots, which is an anthology show, so none of the episodes actually connect. It's just a collection of different types of episodes. I watched the first half while I was at Disney World, and then mid-March came along, we all got laid off, so I watched the second half when I got home. A lot of the shorts I didn't really vibe with. Some of them I did. I really liked the one where the dad and the son, their car breaks down, and then like they're surrounded by these creatures in the sky. The animation for that was beautiful. I really liked that one. I really liked the one about the spirit fox, I think it was, but it was like Japanese based. Loved that one. I love the one with what's his face, Topher Grace, the guy from that 70s show. That's about it. The rest I wasn't a huge fan of. I know they have a 2nd volume either coming out or it already came out, and I have no desire to watch it, so I am going to put it in Couldn't Vibe With It. So next is Big Mouth Season 3. This show is so fucking gross at times, but it's also really funny. I can't lie about that. A lot of the humor is immature and not what I typically laugh at, but that's like half the show. Then the other half is hilarious in a way I don't know how to describe unless you watch the show. And I know one of the biggest critiques of it is the animation style, because the characters do look freaky. That's what I first thought when I watched the first season. But considering the show's about puberty, like kids going through puberty, I like how they're not attractive looking, because that, I think that would just, if they make the characters good looking, it would be weird, very, very awkward. And it also made me realize how awkward puberty actually was, because I don't really think about what I went through during, you know, my puberty stage. And it wasn't until watching the show and relating where I was like, oh, that's how puberty was, unfortunately. So it's a bizarre show, but I am interested in watching season 4. I wasn't going to at first, but then I saw some of the topics they discuss, and I'm very interested in watching those as well. So I will put this up here in the third one, in between Proud Family and Atypical. So the next show is Broke, which I watched on TV. It was a new show in 2020. And the reason I watched it, me and my parents would watch it, because my parents are big fans of the show NCIS, starring Polly Perrette, something like that. She played Abby in NCIS. And then something happened behind the scenes that actress freaked out about, and she quit the show over it. So it was announced that she was going to be in the show called Broke, which is a comedy. And it's about a single mom with her son, who are poor. And then her used to be rich sister and brother-in-law come to live with her because they spent all the brother-in-law's parents' money, and they have to make it up somehow. I don't really know. Again, I only watched it because the actress was in it, and I was curious to see what she was going to do, especially because it's such a drastic change. NCIS is not a comedy. I absolutely hated this show. Everyone in my household did. We didn't think it was funny at all. All the jokes were predictable, and the humor it was way too juvenile, which makes me believe we just weren't the target audience. I think the show was supposed to be more so family orientated. So a lot of the jokes were for kids to easily understand, but therefore were kind of lacking with the adult humor. And the acting was bad. I don't even know. And if I'm correct about the target audience, this show was in the wrong time slot then, because if it's supposed to be a family show, the latest the show should be premiering is 7 p.m. But they had the show premiering at 8:30, which is when a lot of the kids who they're aiming for are going to bed. So that really hurt the show, I think. And what's her face? I don't even know the actress's name. But the NCIS actress, she's not good at comedy. Her delivery was very awkward at times, and then her acting was very stunted. Yeah, I'm putting it in cancel it, and I think it actually was. I think it was canceled. I don't even know if they actually completed the first season. Then we have The End of the Fucking World Season 2, which came out a while ago, so I'm very late to the game on this. And because I remember binging Season 1 back in 2018. And it was just so good, and it left on an open ending, and it left everyone wondering what the hell was going to happen, because I know it's based on a graphic novel, but Season 2 has nothing to do with the graphic novel, so a lot of people just thought that was it, and we all freaked out when this premiered, and I binged it really fast. It was just as good as the first season, and I love the relationship between the two main characters, so I'm going to put this in Deserves Every Emmy. Next is Tiger King, and I want it to be fucking canceled. It's supposed to be only a 1 season long documentary, so I know it's not going to be renewed or anything, but theoretically, just cancel it. Listen, I know the point of the documentary was to make a fool of these people, essentially, because everyone in this documentary was unlikable. Both, what's-his-face, Joe Exotic, both Joe Exotic and Carol Baskin, totally unlikable. I hated both of them. It's just, watching this as a zoology major really bothered me in a way they weren't going for, but I still just couldn't get it out of my head. I don't even know where to begin with this. It's Joe Exotic's portrayal of zoos, which, granted, the documentary actually did a good job of telling people, this is not what you're supposed to do, there's a reason he's in trouble, this is terrible for the animals, but it's just, there's already such a stigma around zoos. I was kind of worried that this would serve as, proof for the people who are anti-zoo, and to be see, this is why we need to close them down, look at Tiger King, when in fact, well-accredited zoos are nothing like what Joe Exotic was doing. That kind of worried me a bit, and I didn't see a lot of it, surprisingly, but I did see some of it, and it's people are working so hard to prove to the general public zoos aren't as bad as people want to make them out to be. There's so many animals today that are still on the endangered list rather than the extinction list because of zoos. I can go on a whole rant about zoos because like it is a hot topic within the zoology field, and I feel very strongly about it. So that's one reason this really pissed me off. And it was the portrayal of what's her face, Carol Baskin's company. It was kind of portrayed wrong. She does do a lot more good than the documentary was talking about, but like I still didn't even like her as a person, and I didn't like any of them, which I think was the point of the documentary. I don't think you were supposed to like either of them. But then I saw a lot of the online discourse, and people were saying we need to root for Joe, and I just, no, he's shitty. She's shitty. She killed her fucking husband, and no one can tell me otherwise. It just, like, it really, like, it, like, triggered me as a zoology major, you know? And as someone who wants to go in the zoo field, like, one of my many ambitions in life is to be a primate caretaker in zoos, hopefully work in rehabilitation centers for primates, and I don't know. I just don't like it. There's, like, no words to describe how angry this documentary made me. Some parts, yeah, were funny, but then other parts just really, really pissed me off in a way it didn't piss off others. Like, I'm glad a lot of people were able to find it hilarious. I just could not. It's also hard to believe that I watched this in 2020 because this was during the time where we all thought we were gonna die in an apocalypse. Who's to say that's not gonna still happen? But does anyone else feel like that part of 2020 was a fever dream? Like, March, April, I just feel like never happened. So next we have American Horror Story Apocalypse, which is season 8, and this one I will do on its own just because, like, American Horror Story is an anthology series, so even if I had more seasons, I would do them separately. So this season is about the Antichrist, and it's about the apocalypse, but it brings in seasons 1 and 3, which are Murder House and Coven, which I thought was really cool because it's not the first time he brought in different aspects from different seasons, but it's the first time he, like, actually connected the stories. I was a little worried for how it was gonna go, because admittedly, Coven was not one of my favorite seasons, but he did such a good job. I meant to watch only, like, 1 or 2 episodes the first night, and I watched the first 7, because I couldn't stop. And just the idea of the Antichrist, and making the Antichrist beautiful, like, he was played by such a pretty man, which was probably the intention. But I thought it was smart, and maybe that's why a lot of people followed him, because he had a lot of followers in the show. And I just couldn't look away. So this definitely deserves every Emmy. Some of the scenes were kind of freaky, and it just makes you wonder, like, can this actually happen? I've always wondered about the Antichrist and because it comes up with politics, which they discussed in the show. They showed the Illuminati, which I thought it was cool. The name dropping I thought was actually hilarious. And then all the characters who had to play multiple characters throughout the show, I thought did a good job of portraying that. And there's more I want to talk about, but it would be spoiling, so we're going to move on. So then we have the Umbrella Academy. I watched both seasons this year, and if I had just watched season 1, I would actually put it in the 3rd tier. The soundtrack is fucking fire. Absolutely amazing. But this, like, story-wise, some parts in the beginning was hard for me to get into. I was a little bored with it. And then as the first season went on, it was grabbing my attention more. But still, I would only put it in the 3rd tier. But then season 2 came out, and I binged it. I watched the whole thing in a day. I adored season 2. The soundtrack was even more fire than the first one, which I can't believe happened, because the first one was already great. Storytelling, the plot twist, that plot twist at the end, the part with Ben making me cry. Luther, it actually got me to like Luther. I hated Luther in the first season, but season 2 where he redeemed himself, they actually got me to like him. It really makes me wonder how they're gonna do the 3rd season now, because with the time skipping and all that. And it does make me want to read the comics. From what I know of the comics, they differed kind of a lot. So I don't know how it's gonna play out. But because of that, I will put it in deserves every Emmy, and I'll put it right there. Next, we have the Golden Girls. I don't know why, but I had the sudden urge to watch the Golden Girls this year. I only watched the first 2 seasons. I'm like halfway through the 3rd, but I haven't touched it since the summer. I used to watch the Golden Girls like every Saturday morning when I was a kid. Like, I clearly remember getting ready for my CCD classes, because mine were on Saturday mornings, waiting for my parents to get ready, because I was only like 7, I couldn't drive, obviously. I would bring my little bowl of cereal to the coffee table, sit on the floor, and watch the Golden Girls. Looking back at it, all the humor went over my head, so I don't know why I was so attached to it. But it's such a cute show, especially, I love Sophia. absolutely adore her. So I'm gonna put it there. It makes me laugh so hard, especially Dorothy. Her facial expressions. Every actress in this show is so good with their delivery, and I have nothing but good things to say about that show. Like, I'm not gonna put it in like great or anything because it just is a sitcom, and sitcoms aren't usually my favorite thing in the world, but it makes me feel joy. And I know there's like, I remember one episode about Sophia's son that made me cry, so I'm like kind of scared to get to it. Alright, next. Avatar: The Last Airbender. Can't imagine where this is gonna go. So yes, this was my favorite show that I watched in 2020. It is my favorite animated series of all time. Top 3 favorite shows of all time. So I was obsessed with this show when I was younger, but not when it was airing. And I think I was between 8 to 11 years old when it was airing. But then when I was 13, I want to say it was like, I think I was in 8th grade when I caught an episode by accident. And it was so good that I just kept watching. So I started like halfway through season 2 and made my way until the end, and I adored it. But then Netflix announced they were going to put it on in May, so I was like, well, I gotta binge watch it now. Here we are. It premiered on Netflix in May, and did you guys see it was like #1 in US Netflix for weeks? I binged watched season 1 in a day. Season 2 and 3 I spread out, but season 1 got it in one day. And this show, I have absolutely nothing but good things. How many fucking times I'm going to say absolutely in this video? I have nothing but good things to say about this show. Even like the bad things about the show are not the worst things I have ever seen. This scene is home to one of my favorite friend groups of all time. So I guess that's called the found family trope. I don't know. It's home to what I consider the best redemption arc in all of fiction. It's home to my absolute favorite villain of all time. Possibly one of my favorite characters in all of fiction. Another weird thing to mention is that this show has my favorite family dynamic to analyze. I love analyzing the Fire Nation royal family. Like, they're just so fucked up, I can't look away. It is home to my favorite scene in almost all of animation, The Last Agni Kai, because I love it because not only for what it represents, you know, two teenage siblings, so children trying to kill each other, and which I find tragic. The animation style is absolutely beautiful, and the music. Mozart could never. It's become a hyperfixation because, hi, if you're new here, I have OCD, and part of OCD is hyperfixating on things. And I can't stop. I finished the show in June, and I still just can't stop thinking about it. And another thing about this show is that there's just so much lore to it that I'm constantly seeing new fan theories every day. I mean, sure, some of them are to the point where I'm positive the creators weren't thinking that deep into it, but it's still fun. Like, it's all in good fun. And I don't know. I love this show so much. I cried more as an adult than I did as a kid. This show is the first ever show that made me pity a villain. At the end, Azula got everything that was coming to her, and yet I still managed to feel bad. I mean, now that I've consumed more media, I have seen more things like that. But given how young I was amazed. Like, I couldn't believe it. Never thought I would pity a villain before. Just because I think at the age this show was targeted for, like, we're just so used to things being so black and white, but this show brought in so much nuance that you don't see in a lot of kids shows. And leading up to that, there's just topics that it was the first time I saw them in a kids show before, like war and genocide. At least to the extent, I mean, I've seen like war in shows before, because, you know, like Star Wars and like other things, but it was the first time it was really delved into, because there's that like thing where a lot of people think kids are stupid and don't understand things, but in reality kids are smarter than you think, and this show handled those things really well. Animal abuse with Appa's Lost Days, you know, child abuse with Zuko. I love this show so much, and I'm glad it was introduced to my life. All I do is look at memes and fan art nowadays, when I should be reading, should be watching movies. I can't look away from Avatar content. I have some qualms with the comics. My thing with the comics is that I liked concepts. It's just the writing was iffy a lot of times. Like, you could just tell it was different writers. But, like, it still introduced so many great concepts and introduced more lore that they couldn't fit into the show. And I love it so much. And it's just, like, y'all, my parents will tell people that I'm fine, and it's like, what do you mean I'm fine? Your child is obsessing with a Nickelodeon show at 23 years old. Her favorite character is a villain, and then her favorite family dynamic is you know, the fucked up family of the show, and her ship is enemies to lovers. Like, what do you mean I'm fine? I am clearly not fine. All I do is cry over this show. And at this point, I'm just rambling about how much I love it, so we are going to move on. Ooh, okay. So next we have an anime called Demon Slayer, which I think is fairly new. I think it actually came out in 2020. I wasn't going to watch it at first, but then two of my roommates from college were like, no, you gotta see it. So, it takes place in, I want to say, like, 1910s, 1920s Japan. This kid comes home and finds his family dead, except for one, and it's his sister. His sister was turned into a demon, so now he becomes a demon slayer in order to form a path to find a way to turn her back into a human. And it's just, bro, deserves every fucking Emmy. I don't even know if anime can be included in Emmys, but if they can, it should win them all. The art style of this anime is amazing. I couldn't look away for the art itself. There were some scenes that I actually had to like rewind because I didn't grasp what they were talking about because I could not help but focus on the art. This studio has a budget. They have a huge budget, and they showed it off at times. And Tanjiro and Nezuko just had a wonderful sibling dynamic. One of the common critiques with this show is that it is formulaic. See, I don't actually watch a lot of anime. I think I've only seen like 10 animes in my whole life. So really, I have nothing to compare this show to. So maybe that's why I don't mind the formula. But another reason I don't actually mind the formula is because I think it was kind of needed to make the final fight of the show as intense as it was. Because you think it's going to happen one way, but then it doesn't. It happens in episode 19, that's what I'm referring to. And I read, actually, that the art style of that and just the intensity and the music made the manga author cry. If an author likes an adaptation that much, you know you did well. And I'm very excited to see the movie. It's supposed to come out in early 2021. But we're in early 2021. There's still no release date. So where is it? Where's the movie? Next is Cowboy Bebop. And y'all have to bear with me with this because I could not vibe with this. I'm going to put it before Love, Death, and Robots because I liked it better than Love, Death, and Robots. But I know. So, I took a history of animation class in college. And for one of our assignments, we had to talk about the style of anime. I forgot what the exact question was, but I know we had to choose between Princess Mononoke or the first episode of Cowboy Bebop. So I chose Cowboy Bebop, and I really enjoyed the first episode, so that's why I decided to keep watching the show. And it just didn't grab my attention very well. It's very weird to talk about because some episodes I really enjoyed. I really liked the first one. I really liked the one where we meet Faye Valentine. I loved Eddie. What's her name? Was it Eddie? No, Ed. I think she just called herself Ed. I loved the one where we meet Ed, and I liked the ones that focused on her, and I enjoyed the ones that focused on Spike's past. But then otherwise, I don't know what it was. Maybe I just wasn't in the right headspace for it, or I just didn't have the mental capacity at the time. But some of the episodes were kind of boring, and I would slide through. And it's a shame because I actually really liked the art style of this. I thought the art style was pretty cool, and the story itself I thought was cool, and also the theme song slaps. But I don't know. I couldn't really vibe with it. Maybe in the future I'll try rewatching it, but we'll see. Next, we have Legend of Korra, which is the sequel to Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it's following Korra, who is the water tribe avatar after Aang. This deserves every Emmy. I mean, yeah, I had a lot of issues with it, but I also didn't. And let's talk about that. So this show is different because there's 4 seasons rather than 3. While Avatar had a multi-seasonal arc, this one had a different arc for every season, so therefore a different villain for every season. And I truly believe this show actually had the potential to be better than Avatar, which I know is kind of blasphemous to say in the fandom, but it wasn't. I agree it's not better. It's not bad. I saw so many heated arguments about the show when it was first announced it was going to be on Netflix. It seemed that people either really loved it or absolutely hated it, and at the time I saw a lot of people hated it, like the majority. I went into Korra with very, very low expectations. I expected to hate her because a lot of people in the fandom seem to despise her. But then I watched it and I was like, are we watching the same show? I liked Korra. I didn't mind that she was different than Aang. I mean, it's understandable they compare her to Aang, because even Aang is compared to the other avatars like Roku and Kyoshi. But I think it's kind of not fair, and I want her to be different from him, because then I just feel like we'd be watching the same show when I want to watch something different. I really like the animation style. The animation in The Legend of Korra is absolutely stunning. I thought the villains in Korra were really cool. I loved Aang's family. I will admit, like, I was not a Katang shipper in the first series. I'm still not. I'm still more of a Zutara shipper, but I can't ignore the fact his family is amazing. I mean, I have my problems with Boomy, but I love Kaya. I love Tenzin. He's one of my top 5 favorite characters of the whole show. I adore Jinora supremacy. Let's go. Admittedly, the ending of the show was not as satisfying as Avatar's, but that's also because Avatar had the multi-season length, so it's like you went on this whole ass journey, whereas, you know, Korra did not. It was different journeys. But the music at the end, which leads me to maybe a controversial opinion. The Last Agni Kai is forever going to be my favorite piece of music in the whole universe. But as a whole, Legend of Korra's soundtrack's better. I said what I said. I'm not going to take it back. I listened to that soundtrack all the fucking time. The end credits actually made my top 5 songs on Spotify last year. Jeremy Zuckerman went hard. There's so many tracks in the soundtrack, like Janora's Light and what's the one... Service and something, the one that plays at the end of season 3, unbelievable. And it's hard to believe that this is for a Nickelodeon show, because that's how hard the soundtrack goes. There's some characters, like plot-wise, I understand why they weren't introduced. It's just I wished they could tell us what happened, like what happened to... We know Sokka died, but why? What happened to Azula? What happened to Mei? I mean, I can assume she's Azumi's mom, but like, what happened to her, you know? Ty Lee, they actually could have brought her in with the whole chi blocker thing. Like, Korra could have gone to Ty Lee for like advice, but what happened to her? Where's Ty Lee? Suki, where the fuck is Suki? She was part of the gang. Why do we not learn what happened to her? I will say the show kind of suffered by not having filler episodes, which I know is really weird to say. But you guys probably noticed that in Avatar: The Last Airbender, a lot of characterization happened in the filler episodes. So, you know, I would argue they weren't exactly filler. That's not Bryke's fault. I know Nickelodeon pulled the plug on them a lot. The background to this show is so interesting to learn about, because apparently Bryke had to fight to make Korra a girl. Like, Nickelodeon wouldn't let them do that. They had to fight to make her bisexual, because Nickelodeon wanted her to be straight. Apparently they were supposed to have more episodes per season, and Nickelodeon pulled the plug at the last minute. That's what I mean by Legend of Korra honestly had the potential to be better, because that's when you make sequels, that's what you want. You want it to be better than the first. But Nickelodeon just screwed them over so many times, and that's where a lot of the writing inconsistencies came in, but what can you do all these years later? But yeah, now I'm just rambling about the show. Like, I can ramble about the Avatar universe forever. I should make a fucking TED Talk. So let's move on. So the next thing I completed was Mickey Mouse shorts. It's like modern day, but it's kind of reminiscent of the animation style that Mickey Mouse was originally in. I watched it with the kids I babysit, so we would just have it on for background noise. So that's why I'm just gonna put it in the 3rd tier, because I don't really remember every episode. Some of them were annoying, some of them were funny, as you do. Next is Penny Dreadful, which is actually a rewatch. I first watched this in college, and I had the sudden urge to rewatch it. So we're gonna put it up here. So this is actually like a gothic horror show. It brings in elements from Dracula, The Picture of Dorian Gray, Frankenstein. Season 3 brings in Jekyll and Hyde, and it mashes the stories all together to tell the story of Vanessa Ives, who is a very fucked up person, basically, and she's trying to redeem herself, heal herself, and it is so addicting. I almost said the word absolutely, and I'm trying to catch myself. Now, I have nothing but good words to say about it, except for the end. I'll get to that. But the cinematography in the show, beautiful. The horror aspects, beautiful. The costuming, beautiful. The music, amazing, superior. If you're into gothic literature, this show is the show for you. I feel like I have to warn people about the ending, because For the first half of season 3, it was kind of obvious that the creator clearly had plans to make a season 4, but you can tell when Showtime pulled the plug on them at the last minute, so they had to like rewrite everything basically. It's a very rushed ending that I feel like undermines Vanessa's character development. And I was telling a friend this. I actually liked the concept of the ending. It's just the writing needed to be a lot better. There needed to be a season or more of development to get there. If you love morally gray characters, this is the show for you. Every character in this show is arguably morally gray. They all do good things, but they also all do really fucked up things. The show has also made me cry a few times, especially the monster. Next is The Haunting of Hill House. I know, it came out 2 years ago. Somehow I didn't get around it until now. It's about this family reminiscing on their past where they lived in a haunted house with their mom. So there's 5 kids and they all represent the 5 stages of grief. And then it also shows the deterioration of the mom's mental health. It's horror, but it also makes you cry. Never has a show simultaneously made me cry and almost gave me a heart attack. The jump scares in this show were artfully done. Because that's my opinion on jump scares is that they do their job. Like I jump and scream when they happen. It's just I still think they're a cheap way to scare people. Psychological horror is my favorite. The stuff that can like freak you out without anything actually jumping out at you. Smart. And this show implements both of that, and the plot twists in this show are so well crafted. The cinematography, like that ending to episode 6 where it's panning out on a character with the voiceover, and it was just so smart. This is another show I binged. Like I meant to watch only 1 or 2 episodes in a day, and I ended up watching 7 and then finished the other 3 the next day. And it tugged at my heart. Episode 8 gave me a heart attack. The rest tugged at my heart. I was sobbing by the end of it, and I wish I had this guy's creativity, and I am jealous that I do not. I was trying to put this before Demon Slayer. So next is The Haunting of Bly Manor, which is based off The Turn of the Screw, I think. I made sure to put some time between this show and Haunting of Hill House because I was well aware they were 2 different stories. So I was trying to get my mind away from Hill House to avoid comparing them. And when it was first coming out, I was hearing mixed things. Like some people weren't liking it, some were. And after watching the show, I think it was advertised wrong. And I went into the show knowing it was advertised wrong, but still, because I would classify Bly Manor more as gothic. So it's horror, but not the same horror as Hill House. Like, while Hill House is all about the jump scares and the craftedly put together plot twist, Bly Manor was more about the journey, which I don't know if that makes sense. It wasn't jump scare galore like the director himself made it out to be. He made it out to be like pure horror, jump scares at every turn, which didn't happen, and I feel like that's why a lot of people were disappointed because that's what they were expecting and they got what Bly Manor was. But even knowing that, like even going into it knowing it was completely different and a different genre than Hill House, I still wasn't a fan. Yeah, I know. Okay, so the first 4 episodes were really boring. And I couldn't get into it. And like the ending made me feel things. I didn't cry as much as everyone did. And I was a little disappointed in that because everyone's like, you're gonna bawl your eyes out. And then I did not. And I like kind of feel bad. But here we are. I do still have to admit, despite finding it boring, the plot twists of the show were still as well done as Hill House. So major props to that. So next I watched The Magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom, which is like another documentary series on Disney+. And it's just the behind the scenes of the animals you see at Animal Kingdom, which is one of the parks in Disney World. I was interested in it because that's where I worked when I was at Disney World. I was food service in Animal Kingdom. And I was thinking about working my way up to be a zookeeper. But given the circumstances I'm not planning on working at Disney World anytime soon. But I still wanted to be reminiscent, and it's just the stories of animals. They pick a certain animal and give them a little plot, and it's really, really cute and wholesome. So if you don't know, there actually is a ride called Kilimanjaro Safari. It's a really fun ride. And the animals aren't really encaged. Like, there were a few times where our car had to stop to let the zebras pass and let the giraffes pass, and they can get close to you sometimes. So they will tell you keep your hands inside, because you can theoretically reach out and touch the animals. Like, that's how close you are to them. But it was really cute. It was really wholesome. So if you want to learn about animals, like if you want the Animal Planet vibe, I would recommend this. Next is Ratched, which is supposed to be the origin story of Nurse Ratched of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I read that book my senior year of high school. I reacted to the movie, which you guys can see up above. Nurse Ratched is actually a great villain. I hated her so much, but it was because of how well written she is. And what makes her so scary is that she is just any other person, and she's passive aggressive. That's what made her so scary. So I was excited to see her origin story, but it's Ryan Murphy. I should have known he would have over dramatized it more than it needed to be. So I loved the costuming, I loved the music, and I loved cinematography, but I didn't like the character Ratched in this show. It's just, my thing with this is that this Nurse Ratched and the one you see in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest might as well just be two different characters, which could be the intention, but also in the beginning they say based on the character of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and Ryan Murphy has made it very clear this is supposed to be a villain origin story. I don't really know, but I didn't really like this interpretation. I think Nurse Ratched, in order to keep her as scary and horrible as she is, she shouldn't get a backstory, because giving her a backstory and making her do these bizarre things that she does in the show takes away from the fact that she is just any other person you can meet walking down the street. Because that is what made her so scary. Like, that was Ken Casey's point. She was based off all these doctors he saw while working at a mental asylum, just any other person. But when you have her committing all these crimes, she doesn't become any other person anymore. She's just a very specific person, and it's not so scary, and I don't know. I didn't like it, and it's supposed to get a season 2, and I don't really want to watch it. Like, I'm not going to put it in the last tier, but I will put it here, because maybe I will give into my curiosity and watch the second season. Who knows? But for now, I don't really have a desire to. If you really want a good taste of who Nurse Ratched is, just stick with the movie. So next is the Queens Gambit, which is about a girl who becomes obsessed with chess, and you see her life throughout the many years playing chess, but also dealing with addiction. I'm not a chess player. I have no idea what's going on. I was shocked by how much I enjoyed the show. I couldn't stop watching it, and Anya Taylor-Joy is an amazing actress. It had a way of making you so excited about chess despite not knowing anything. Like, I know there was one point where she was complaining, and she was like, oh my god, you put it on b4, and I was like, girl, I'm so sorry about that, terrible move, good luck next time. But then other parts where she's like, I won because I put it on b5, and I was like, yes girl, that's the best move you could have possibly done. Talking out of my ass, because I don't even know if b5 is a spot. I just made that up on the top of my head. It was a great time. And finally, the last thing I watched was Mandalorian Season 2. I'm gonna put this here. No, I'm gonna put this right here. So I gotta, like, be honest. I'm only watching Mandalorian for Baby Yoda. Like, it's not my favorite show in the world. There are some episodes that do kind of drag. Some characters I can't stand. Like, I don't like Cara Dune, whatever her name's supposed to be. But the Mandalorian's such a cute father to his child, and we have to stand. And that ending had me shook. That's not to say I will not be watching Season 3. Of course I'm going to. Is it Season 3, or is the Book of Boba Fett supposed to be something else? That's it. That's all 22 shows I watched. So here is the final product. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know I have some, like, unpopular opinions on this, but let me know what your favorite show of 2021 was, and your 2021, we're in 2021. Let me know what your favorite show of 2020 was, your least favorite show. I'm intrigued to know. Other shows I'm considering watching is Tokyo Ghoul, because I'm reading that manga right now. I'm currently on the sequel series. I want to rewatch the anime Holic. I want to rewatch Ghost Town, I don't remember. I watched it freshman year of high school. I want to watch Attack on Titans, because I know the final season's coming out. Everyone's freaking out. Promised Neverland. This is a lot of anime. Dragon Prince, the head writer of Avatar The Last Airbender, works on that show. Is there any more? I don't know. I'm like on an animation kick because I have such a fascination with animation right now. So if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. And without further ado, I'm going to peace out, and I'll see you guys later.